Good morning, Year 3. Welcome to today's English lesson. This is week 2 of our English unit on recounts. And yesterday we learned what the first person was, and today we are going to apply the first person, which means we're going to start using it in our writing. So today is the 2nd of February 2021, and our learning objective is to apply the first person, which means we're going to use the first person. Our starter focus today will be on punctuation. So can you add commas? Okay, and if you can't remember what a comma is, I've just done it over here. Can you add commas to the sentences and put them in the correct places? Right, so add commas in the correct places to these sentences below. After lunch, I went to the cinema, the shops, and a restaurant. Okay, think about when you need commas. You need them after a fronted adverbial and you need them in a list. Okay, so after lunch, I went to the cinema, the shops, and a restaurant. Number 2, immediately the wolf gobbled up the delicious, juicy lamb chops. Okay, now we do also use commas for expanded noun phrases where it's two adjectives and a noun. So think about whether you see that in this sentence over here. Do you see two adjectives and a noun for an expanded noun phrase? Okay, because if you do, then you need a comma. Do you see a fronted adverbial? If you do, you need a comma after the fronted adverbial. Okay, immediately the wolf gobbled up the delicious, juicy lamb chops. Finally, number 3, deep in the forest, the girl followed a treacherous path. Okay, deep in the forest, the girl followed a treacherous path. Now think carefully, does it have a fronted adverbial? Or does it have an expanded noun phrase? Or does it have a list? Okay, if you cannot remember what your fronted adverbials are, they usually describe the noun. They go at the beginning of a sentence. They tell you how, when, or where. Okay, so I am going to get out, I think that's my purple, or I'm just going to get a different color pencil. When you are ready, we'll mark it together. Okay, after lunch. Now that tells me when something happened. It tells me after lunch I went. When did I go? I went after lunch. It's at the front, so I need a comma. All right, it's a fronted adverbial. After lunch, I went to the cinema, the shops, and a restaurant. I'm making a list of places I went to. So the cinema, comma, the shops, and a restaurant. I do not need a comma before the and. Okay? So that should be the right answer for number 1. Number 2, immediately the wolf gobbled up the delicious, juicy lamb chops. Okay, so delicious, comma, juicy. It's an expanded noun phrase. 2 adjectives and then the noun. The 2 adjectives are delicious and juicy. The noun is lamb chops. Okay, so that's where your first comma should have gone. And then again, immediately. When did he do it? He did it immediately. When did he gobble it up? He gobbled it up immediately. Okay? At the front, so it's a fronted adverbial. You need a comma. And finally, deep in the forest, the girl followed a treacherous path. Okay? So where was she? Deep in the forest. Where did she follow the path? Deep in the forest. Okay? Which is why you need that comma after deep in the forest. All right, so hopefully that was a nice little quick review on adding your punctuation. Let's go on and talk about what we are learning today, which is to apply the first person. Okay, so your success criteria today, in order to be successful in this, you need to first be able to know what the first person is. So I'll review that with you. Do you remember your personal pronouns? Again, I will review that with you. And then finally, can you use it in a sentence? And I will start doing that with you and I will let you do the rest by yourself. Okay? So I'm always here to help you. I'll go over what the first person is, then the personal pronouns, and then using them in a sentence. So, first person, you may remember the slide from yesterday. If you're writing a story in the first person, you have to write as if you are the character inside the story. Pretend that it is you, okay? Describe how you are feeling what you are doing. And then you use the word I. For example, last year, I went to Spain with my family, okay? So not only is I the personal pronoun over here, let me go with purple, okay? But also my family. It's not his family, it's my family. Not your family, but my family, okay? And I loved it. All of this has to do with me. I've put myself into that situation and I'm saying I went to Spain with my family. I loved it, okay? Now, here are your other pronouns that you can use. So my, me. Ooh, that's not a very good color, is it? I will just delete that. Just look at them carefully, okay? So my, me, mine, we, our, ours, and us. Anything that includes me, okay? All of those are personal pronouns. They all replace the noun, all right? So looking back at success criteria, do you now know what your first person is and what the personal pronouns are? Okay. First person is when you're talking about I, you're talking about me, and your pronouns are this list right over here. Okay. So have a look at those. It all includes yourself. Now that you know what first person and personal pronouns are, let's review our model text. Okay. So actions if you want to, if it helps you remember. I know it certainly helps me remember when I'm reading it. So I'm going to do my actions. It was late one evening when it happened. I was fishing in the little stream over by Calder, where it runs down into the sea. It was getting dark, and I had already snagged my line in the reeds several times, so I decided to stop. I wandered through the woods. Further up the valley, the owls were hooting, and I paused to listen. Ahead of me was the ghostly sound of the owls, and behind me, the slow rush of the sea. Okay, next two paragraphs. Well done for reading along. It was then that it happened. At first, I thought that it was just my imagination, but I was sure that I was being watched. I could feel the hairs on the back of my head prickle. Then I turned to look up to the top field where it meets the cliff's edge. That was where I saw it. Two huge green lights, as if someone had parked a bus up there. As I was staring, I saw the lights move up. Against the darkening sky, I could see the outline of a massive giant with green glowing eyes. It was taller than a building. It stood there for a moment with the wind singing through its fingers. I'd had enough by then, as you can imagine. What with the owls hooting and then seeing this figure, I started to run and I didn't stop till I got home. All right, so that was a quick recap. Well done for reading the model text. There's a picture of the Iron Man, and I know that we are doing this in our reading lesson as well. So it's good that we're connecting both texts together. All right, so questions I have for you. What point of view is it written in? What clues tell you that? And what personal pronouns can you spot? Okay, so what point of view do you think it's written in? Remember, if it's in first person, it includes I, me, my, us. If it's second person, it's you. And then if it's the third person, we're talking about a completely different character. Okay, so what person do you think it's written in? Well, hopefully you said that it's written in the first person, because he's telling a recount of his story. And I did say last week that recounts are always told in the first person. It includes I. It's a personal experience. Okay. So which clues should tell you that? Well, it's your personal pronouns. Okay. And what are those personal pronouns that we're talking about? I was fishing in the little stream over by Calder, where it runs into the sea. I had already snagged my line, so I decided to stop. I wandered up through the woods. I paused to listen. Ahead of me and behind me. Okay? All of those are personal pronouns. It all has to do with me, which is why it's first person. I thought that it was my imagination. I was sure I was being watched. I could feel the hairs on the back of my head prickle. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing. I hope you get the idea. If you'd like to, go ahead and see if you can find any more. But it's all to do with me and my and I and me. Okay, I think I already said that twice, but that has to do with first person. So now that we are very clear on what that is, let's read another text. What about this one? The Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. How far had he walked? Nobody knows. Where did he come from? Nobody knows. How was he made? Nobody knows. Taller than a house, the Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff, on the very brink in the darkness. So we're talking again about the Iron Man. The Iron Man. It's a different character. The wind sang through his fingers. His great iron head, shaped like a dustbin but as big as a bedroom, slowly turned to the right, slowly turned to the left. His iron ears turned this way, that way. He was hearing the sea. His eyes, like headlamps, glowed white, then red, then infrared, searching the sea. Never before had the Iron Man seen the sea. Okay, so I've highlighted all those key words. You should know right away, well, it's definitely not the first person. Is it the second person or is it the third person? Well, second person means you, and I do not see the word you anywhere over there, which means it has to be third person. It is about a completely different character, not me, not I. Okay, so this text now is written in the third person. So your activity for today. Can you change that text from the third person to the first person? Now, I don't expect you to write all of it unless you were typing. If you're doing it on Teams, please do type out the whole text. However, if you're finding it a little difficult to write it on a piece of paper, just complete as much as you can, okay? Work at your own pace. If you would like to do just the first paragraph, that's fine. If you'd like to do just the second paragraph, that's also fine. If you'd like to challenge yourself and complete the whole thing, then well done. I would be really impressed if you're able to write down on a piece of paper the whole text in first person. If you are on Teams, please make sure you type it up, because all you have to do is change those keywords, change it to personal pronouns. Okay. So if you are doing it on Teams, you can go ahead and go and complete your assignment on there. If you would like a little bit of help, and if you are doing it by writing it down, then you can stay with the video. Okay. I will put it down over here for you. And then I will scroll down. So pause it when you need to so that you can read it. You should be able to see the whole text. Okay, so if you are staying with me and you're still here for the video, then that means you need a little bit of help or you would like to read it. So I'm going to help you do that. Now, in the last slide, I highlighted all the third person. So remember, the Iron Man is a completely different character. And it says, how far had he walked? Now remember, you are putting yourself into this story. You are putting yourself into the text. So it's not going to be the Iron Man came to the top of the cliff. Okay, it is going to be instead, I came to the top of the cliff. Okay, how far had, now remember, it's not he walked, it's me. I'm including myself. How far had I walked. Okay, does that make sense? Let me just move that up over there. And then here is my first sentence. My first two sentences, I should say. Let me put that in a different color for you. Oh, that's not very clear, is it? Let's change it to maybe blue. There we go. Okay, so I came to the top of the cliff. How far had I walked? Nobody knows. Okay, now it's not where did he come from? It's where did I come from? So nobody knows. Where did I'm putting myself into the text. Where did I come from? Nobody knows. Okay, nobody knows. Maybe I'll put this onto the next slide. There we go. That way it's a little bit clearer for you. Okay. And then the next one is, how was, not he made, how was I made? How was I made? Remember, I'm putting myself into the text. How was I made? Nobody knows. Okay. Taller than a house. The Iron Man stood at the top of the cliff. Is it the Iron Man standing at the top of the cliff? No, it's me. It's I. So, taller than a house. Taller than a house, comma, I stood at the top of the. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Find where it's talking about the Iron Man and he, change it to personal pronouns. So I, my, me. The wind sang through his iron fingers? No, they're my iron fingers. So think about that. All right. So instead of his iron fingers, they're now my iron fingers. Sorry, it's still on highlighter. Okay, right. I'm going to leave the rest for you to do by yourselves. Hopefully that was clear. Remember, as I said, try and do as much as you can. I'd be very impressed if you write down the whole thing because that will really show that you're practicing your first person. All right, so well done, year 3. Hopefully now you're confident in using the first person and we'll move on to a different feature tomorrow. All right, well done.